Your kid just got a consequence. They're upset. They're mad at you. They're mad at the teacher, blaming everyone but themselves. Just want them to learn from their actions. Have them take responsibility. So why isn't this happening? Here is a simple framework that will transform the way your child thinks and makes decisions and improves your relationship almost immediately. I'm Susan Taylor, 30 years as a parent, teacher, and learning specialist. I've worked with hundreds of families. What I have found is that there is a missing piece, and it isn't discipline and it isn't consequences. It's that our kids don't have the understanding or the structure of how choices actually work. But once they see it, everything changes. In this video, I'll show you the framework I use to teach that understanding. I'll walk you through an important conversation I had with my nephew, and you'll leave with practical scripts you can start using today. We all know this situation. A child gets a consequence, whether it's natural, like their bike gets rusty because they left it in the rain, or a given one, like losing screen time because they misused a device, or having to bring schoolwork home because they goofed off in class. And many children will see that consequence or the undesirable outcome that they caused as a result of their own actions as just something that happened to them. They get angry, frustrated, emotional. They don't see how that consequence is connected to their own choice. We give consequences because we want our kids to be accountable, but consequences only show up after the choices are made. And that's the problem. They're supposed to teach accountability and responsibility, but often they don't. But what if we could go before the consequence, go before the outcome of their choice, and pull back the curtain and show kids the actual structure of how decisions and choices work in a way that not only stops them from blaming other people, but actually gives them more agency. And it moves them away from getting emotional about outcomes to actually owning what they chose. Let me show you what this looks like. My sister calls me about my nephew, Harrison. He's goofed off in class. The teachers emailed her. Your son is choosing to talk and socialize instead of do his work, so he needs to bring his schoolwork home and finish it. He has a project due in 2 days and needs this particular day's work to be done by tomorrow. So this meant he was going to have to miss tennis practice and free time with his friends after school to finish his work. My sister picks him up from school and explains the email and the consequences to him, and he is mad. He's mad at the teacher. He's mad at my sister. He's just angry. So she got him on the phone with me, and I said to him, okay, let's walk through what happened. You were in class. You made a choice to socialize with your friends instead of doing your work, right? Yes, he says. So Harrison, you said yes to your friends and socializing, and you made the choice not to do your work at class time, right? Yes, he says. So now the work has to get done later, and this isn't your homework. You had designated time to do that in class. So this means now you can't go to tennis practice and socialize with your friends after school, right? Yes. So now, no free time. Now, he's a 7th grade boy. He's impulsive, testing boundaries, completely normal. But he genuinely did not want to take ownership. He didn't see the connection of what he chose to do in class and then what that was going to mean for after school time. So I walked him through what I call trade-off thinking, a term borrowed from the field of economics. I told him everything in life is a trade-off. When you say yes to talking in class, you said no to your schoolwork. You gained social time, but it cost you your work time. And that cost carries forward. It's why you're missing tennis and friends now after school. And I walked it through him clearly. What he gained, what he lost, what he said yes to, what he said no to, without realizing it. And once he saw that connection, he actually did take ownership because he finally understood, oh, this is the cost. This is the trade I made. And here's what I said to my sister. This keeps you neutral. You're not the punisher. You're not the bad guy. You're just the person pointing to the structure of his choices, the trade-offs he made. It takes it off her, it takes it off the teacher, and it puts the agency exactly where it belongs, with him. That's how it works. Life is a series of trade-offs. This is not a punishment. This is the structure of reality. You say yes to some things, you're saying no to something else. Where there's a gain, there's usually a cost. When you get something, there's something you're giving up. We can and must teach this concept to our kids. The problem that our kids have is where their attention goes after they've made a choice. When a consequence or an undesirable outcome follows something they have done. And most kids, they right there, and they're not thinking, I made this choice and this followed. They're thinking, this happened to me. When you feel like things are just happening to you, what do you do naturally? You look for who caused it. You look for who did it. My teacher's too strict. My mom is being mean. This isn't fair. That's what happens when a kid can't see that connection between their choice and what follows. And without that connection and that deep understanding, there is no real responsibility, just blame. So we don't want our kids parked on the consequence, just what happened to them. We want them to look at the choice. That's where the real learning happens. We need them to understand this very clearly. Every outcome starts with a choice. We want our energy here when we're talking to them about something that's happened. We want them to really examine the trade-offs they made when making their choice to do whatever it was. And the core of it is very simple. Let's go over it. Every choice gives us something. Every choice costs us something. For every yes, there's a no. That's the question we want them asking. What was I choosing when I made that decision? Not what happened to me, but what was I choosing? That's trade-off thinking. So here's what it sounds like in your home. You just stay neutral. Your tone is calm. You're curious, almost like you're figuring this out together. You start with, this isn't punishment. Yes, you got a consequence, or yes, you got an undesirable outcome. You made a trade. You just didn't know you were making one. Then walk them through it. What did you choose? What did you gain? What did you give up? Basically, what was the cost of your choice? And then you can also say, to start building foresight, the next time you're faced with a choice or in a situation, you can begin to pause and think, if I do this, what comes with it? What am I getting? What am I giving up? Okay, let's walk through a few examples of talking to a kid through this framework after something has happened. Okay, what did you choose? I stayed up late. What did you gain? I got to have fun. What was traded, or what was the cost? My energy and focus for the next day. All right, next example. What did you choose? I left my bike out. What did you gain? Some convenience, a few extra minutes. What was traded? What was the cost? Protection for the bike. It got stolen. That's it. That's the whole conversation. These 3 questions. What did you choose? What did you gain or get? What did it cost? Or what did you have to give up? That's putting the onus back on them. And this isn't an accusation. It's a genuine inquiry. Like you're helping them see something they honestly couldn't see on their own, because often they really couldn't. The word trade-off should become a household word. Do this consistently when they are young, and every time you have these conversations, your child will start connecting their choice with the trade-offs they made to what happened next. You're not handing them those connections. You're just asking the questions, and they're the ones making the connections. Walk through that framework enough times after something's happened, and eventually your child will start to pause and ask these questions before something happens. And that's foresight, and that's how wisdom begins. And ultimately, that's what we want. See you in the next one.